Ms. Pickup, can I ask you, for example, if you are an Iranian who has come across on a dinghy, and they're one of the top 10 nationalities in the past, in many cases people who are economically quite well off as well, and you are found not to have a legitimate asylum claim in the UK, what could and should happen to that person?
Can I just clarify your question? Are you asking about someone who has been admitted to the UK asylum process and whose claim has been rejected after a full consideration of whether they have a well-founded fear of persecution?
Somebody who goes through all the processes, forget about Rwanda, goes through all the processes pre-Rwanda and is found not to have a claim, and various appeals uphold that position by the government. What could and should happen to that Iranian citizen?
If they've had a fair hearing and a fair process and they've been found not to have had a well-founded fear of persecution, then the government could remove them to Iran, or they could certainly try.
How?
In the way that they remove anybody.
Well, you can't, because the Iranian government refuses to take back any citizens who are being removed from a third country. They won't let them get off the plane. So do you acknowledge, because we know that's the case, that if you are an Iranian who comes to the UK, it is highly, highly unlikely that you can be removed from the UK to Iran, so you're going to be staying here? Isn't that the case?
Yes.
Okay. Is that fair to those people who have got a legitimate claim, who we do uphold, where we've got somebody who hasn't, who simply by dint of they cannot be returned to their home country, stays here anyway? And isn't that why a scheme like the Rwanda scheme does give an alternative, so that person would not be able to stay in the UK with no right to stay in the UK other than the fact we can't deport them to Iran?
I don't accept that it's unfair. It is not the individual asylum seekers, any individual asylum seeker's fault that that there is no returns agreement with Iran, so they can't be returned to Iran. In terms of whether that is a justification for the Rwanda scheme, with respect, that is not who the Rwanda scheme is designed for.
Why not?
Because you were asking me about somebody who's been admitted to the United Kingdom asylum process and has had their claim considered in the United Kingdom. The Rwanda scheme is for people who the Home Office decides are not admissible to the United Kingdom and decides to send to Rwanda in order for their asylum claims to be processed there. Yeah. And many of the concerns about sending people to Rwanda is precisely that they won't have a fair hearing of their asylum claim in Rwanda. And if I can just in response to some of the questions you're asking Ms. Schleicher, the Home Office's own evidence raises serious concerns about the treatment of LGBTQI plus asylum seekers in Rwanda, as does the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. So there is evidence for the concerns that she articulated.
Okay, can we sit with Iran? Because this is a really moot point as to why a scheme like the Rwanda scheme, whether you like it or not, and there are faults with it, but it's the only practical way for somebody for whom it is impossible to return to their home country, and Iran is just one example, to have an alternative scheme that means they are not able to stay in the United Kingdom and instead will have their claim processed in Rwanda.
I repeat that is not what this scheme is targeted at. This scheme is targeted at people who are not admitted to the United Kingdom asylum system. And among the many very real concerns about this scheme is that Iranians who do have a well-founded fear of persecution in Iran, which is a very significant proportion of those found by the Home Office and by the UK courts who come here and claim asylum, a large number of them are found to have a well-founded fear of persecution in that regime.
Percentage do we know
I don't
for
know off
Iranian?
the top of my head, I'm afraid.